I've got a couple of points to my question. Initially, it is with the credit crisis and associated increases in interest rates that have been passed on by the banks and non-banks. If you're currently with a non-bank and your rates are slightly higher than what the bank's rates are, what should you do?
Yeah.
And secondly, which areas would the panel recommend to buy a second property? And when do they think that the property market will turn upwards? And plus, I was wanting to inquire about, with Robert's company, what are the details if I was interested in inquiring about a loan?
Sure.
Okay.
Heaps to go through.
Yeah,
Probably going to answer lots of people's questions, so we'll try and attack some of it. Shall we start with the non-bank versus the banks?
The biggest factor in regards to getting out of their current loan for most people was the statutory costs, such as the stamp duty. So if Peter's in Sydney, which I think he was, the caller, Peter, you need to be conscious that in today's economic climate, the government has actually made it easier for you if you need to get out of where you are. You can actually refinance without paying that absorbent cost of stamp duty. You still, depending how long you've been there might still be a deferred establishment fee, which means if you've come in at a loan where either there was no ongoing fees and charges, if like some lenders don't charge you any, well then they try and recoup their costs of physically putting the loan on the books, and that can vary between 3 to 5 years if there was no ongoing fees and charges. If they do charge you annual fees, that's generally a lot lower, could be 1 to 2 years. But with the banks and the non-banks, what you'll find is that the reason that the banks actually reduced their margins all the way down was that was as a result of the pressure of the non-banks. Historically, prior to the non-banks coming into play, the banks had a spread of about 4%. That's the spread that they actually had, and they've just come back last year to about 1.5%. So the margin, that's above the swap rates or the bank bill rates. The banks were making 400 basis points profit. Now it's down to 125. It's crept up now because they've actually increased outside the Reserve Bank on average between 0.5% to 1%. The actual major lenders have gone outside that. But the other thing was, what can you do for that volatility? One of the things we touched on earlier with Brooke was, prior to you calling, Peter, was that you've got the option to actually fix. And right at the moment, if your rate is pretty close to or higher than the current standard variable rate, you have got access to products on average of about 0.5% lower, having a fixed rate loan, for depending what term your comfort factor is. But somewhere around 3 years would probably be the right sort of term to look at fixing it in at the moment. Within that term, hopefully the states should all settle down in a year or so, because they've got about 2 years to go. A lot of those loans that are rolling over from historical non-conforming loans that they wrote in the mortgage crisis in the States, they started rolling over about a year ago, but there's still another 2 years left. So by the time they go through the system, there might be another year left till the storm starts settling down.